Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cindy Smith, and this is my presentation on iridology. So, what is iridology? It is an alternative medicine practice where practitioners believe they can assess a person's health by examining the iris of the eye. They claim to detect patterns, colors, and other characteristics of the iris that correspond to various bodily organs, potentially indicating health issues for a person. The primary purpose of the iris is to control the amount of light that enters the eye by regulating the size of the pupil. This allows the eye to adapt to different lighting conditions, from bright sunlight to dim environments. As you can imagine, as a child or a younger person, they're able to accommodate easily, and as we age, the accommodation lessens. So, like if you saw a person in a restaurant, an older person, they would require more light than, say, a younger person to read the menu. While the iris is not directly involved in the lens shape change, it plays a crucial role. And like I said, as we age, this affects the clarity of the images that the eye is able to project onto the retina, affecting our vision. This is just a photo of the anatomy of the iris, showing the muscles. So this is where it all began. It was developed in 1888 by a gentleman with the name of Pegzelli. Is my pronunciation of it. Um, as a boy, he was in his garden and he saw this owl. He decided he wanted to capture the owl. So he tries to grab the owl, but to his surprise, the owl grabs him back, grabs hold of his arm, and of course he gets very scared and ends up breaking the owl's leg to get it off of his arm. Um, he kind of felt bad after he broke the owl's leg, and he decides to mend the owl's leg. And while he's mending its leg, he looks into the owl's eyes and he sees all these beautiful patterns and different colors, and it really intrigued him. And as he got older, he started looking into more humans' eyes, and he decided that he could diagnose, with my air quotes, certain conditions. He started coming up with all these different, okay, if you have this mark, you must have this problem. And as you can imagine, he was pretty much deemed a quack. Uh, you know, charged with telling people, just falsities. There was nothing that could be proved. Um, there was no science behind it. It was just what he believed. So iridology is a practice that examines the iris, and what the practitioners are looking for is, signs of health issues, and it's the belief that the iris is a window to the body's internal state. It's kind of like that saying, the eyes are the window of the soul. It rests on four main principles, which include blood circulation, nerve condition, lymphatic system function, and adequate nutrition. The practitioners examine the iris for specific patterns, colors, markings, and they assess these areas and provide a diagnosis, which again with air quotes, for that person's health. Now, all of these pretty much, the blood circulation, the condition of the nerves, uh, the nutrition, the lymphatic system function, all the principles are basically the same. They are looking for I would say, anomalies in that individual's coloration, what they believe to be texture in the eye, and that's what they're basing their diagnosis off of. Once again, these are just this is the length of malnutrition, but they're they're making assumptions based off what they see in that person's eye. Now, this is a traditional iris chart. So, back in the original days where Pegzelli discovered this, he would line up, like, sit there and kind of stare into someone's eyes and, kind of map out where he saw different things in the eyes. And he would say, you know, it's, you had something in, the left bottom of your iris, and possibly you were having a problem with your left leg, or, whatever the case may be, or whatever he saw. And the fact that there are no two irises that are the same, just like fingerprints, we're all individuals. And from what I was reading, even our two eyes that we have in our head, they're structural. I mean, the irises are different. So you would think this could be a real thing. Now, the methodology used for the disease investigation by these practitioners include observation of the iris. Now, back in the day, like I said, they used the previous map, and they would go through these steps and map out the markings they saw. And nowadays, they use high resolution photography. So they'll take, probably beautiful pictures, and they do the same thing. They kind of can transpose it over a map and say, okay, this is going on with you, that's going on with you. So that would be the iris mapping. And like I said, then it's the sign interpretation. They would just look and see what's there. And based on what they see, they'll give you a diagnosis, once again with air quotes. And they would suggest certain supplements or herbal remedies, dietary changes, and then you would have a follow up to see if the changes you were making were helping. And they would re-examine the eyes to see if the iris had changed, because a lot of times different supplements, food, so many things affect what's going on with our eyes. I mean, on a regular basis. We've all heard, carrots help your eyes, and all those things. But these people think, even with the natural changes, that whatever they're telling people to do is making a difference. And in a way, it's like going to get your fortune read. You know, if they tell you, if you stand under, this telephone pole and, hold your breath for 10 seconds and it's going to make everything better. If you believe it, you believe it. I like this picture here because it kind of, you can see the iris like the same size as the map, and you can kind of see what they're looking for. Um, Now, is iridology science? I could find very few people who would say yes. Um, it is meant to be used as a tool to aid in diagnosis, but like that, I could find no study to validate any claims. It's it's considered a pseudoscience. Now there is one gentleman, Serge Gersonis. He's from Lisbon, Portugal. He is a huge supporter of iridology. He has written many books, uh, papers, and he believes that iridology is a misunderstood science. He has also done a lot of medical research. There are my air quotes again. Um, but he is, a naturopathic doctor. He is not an MD. I don't believe he's, been trained in any formal research. So that's one of the things, that if it was a true science, it would be able to be proven again and again and again with anyone performing the research. If they're following his steps, they would be able to replicate what his findings, and that hasn't been the case. But if you want to purchase one of his books, you can find them on Amazon. Now, what Erickson recommends? I would go for adults, teens, old people, infants. I'm gonna say no because I believe that there are too many things that could cause harm. Um, with Erickson, he believed in, basic needs being met. And, we need these things to survive. Where general research will say, you know, the eyes are kind of adapting to us. It sounds like, with iridology, we are adapting to what's going on with the eyes. And it's weird. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say no for Erickson. I don't believe it's safe. I don't believe there would be any benefit um, in the lifespan for anyone. Now, if I was so inclined, where could I get a reading? Well, I did find a place in Palm Beach County, and this young lady here from my ad read, you can have an in-person consultation, you can do it online, you can get your friends a gift certificate. The prices range from $25 to up and beyond. Um, there were also a lot of people who would do readings, once again, air quotes, um, on Etsy and smaller sites like that, and they'll charge just a flat fee for examining your eyes. So if I was going to go see one of these people or have my eyes examined by them, what would I look for? Well, that's part of the problem. There's no specific education or requirement. Anyone can claim to be an iridologist. Um, there is an International Iridology Practitioners Association, and they offer some certificates and training, but nothing is mandated by the state. And you don't know if the person claiming to do that is actually the person who took these classes, or I don't know. There's just it's kind of to me it's like when you get your fortune told. You have to have a lot of faith in the person and what they're telling you. Conclusion. Um, Iridology has not been able to be proven in the past 144 years since Sally looked into the eyes of that owl. Um, Nothing with any certainty. Um, the gentleman, Serge, he believes iridology is a misunderstood science. You know, in a way, you would like to believe that if every iris is so unique, just like our fingerprints, it's you would like to believe that something could be proven from these readings that these people are doing, and you know it just nothing can be proven, you know beyond a reasonable doubt. And now I did find, this was the shortest assessment I could find, so I did put a YouTube link there and watch the assessment and how they do it. Some of them are very long. They're really trying to be in depth, and there is also a case study there. And once again, it's like I said, I just feel the only thing I can really relate it to is getting your fortune told. These are my references, and I just want to say thank you for watching my presentation. Have a great day.